Hello, everybody. This is Predator Magic, the live podcast on twitch.tv/Predator Magic. I'm DM Cross, and I'm here with Frexen Walker and Magical Hacker as per usual. Hey, guys, what's going on?
Nothing much. Just hanging out, talking.
I'm ready
Mechanics.
to do some talking. Yeah.
You would think by now I would remember to say somebody's name first so that they know who to say something first, but no, I just torture them and make them figure it out. We are joined this time with a very special guest over from the EDHREC and the EDHREC. Is it Recast or Recast?
EDHRECast. It is the EDHRECast.
EDHRECast podcast. Matt Morgan, he writes the From 60 to 0 series over on EDHREC, where he takes archetypes from 60 card formats and translates them into commanders, which is I always find pretty interesting. Matt's one of the article series that I actually try to read every time they're out, because that's a thing that I think I would try to do, is like take like a modern staple and try to make it a commander deck, kind of, because it's always difficult to translate something that you could have four of and you have to go to singleton. But Matt, how you doing, buddy?
It's true. I'm doing good, and just so you know, it's the 60 to 100 series, not the 60 to 0 series. But
did I say 60 to 0?
You did. But if it makes you
saying things wrong,
if it makes you if it makes you feel any better, I always call Joey's article series the Commander Versus series, which I know is wrong, but I just got stuck on it, so it's gonna stay around now, so it's good.
So even EDHREC has a Commander Versus. That's how crazy it is. All right, so for this one, we brought Matt in to talk about the mechanics from Guilds of Ravnica. I'm not Guilds of Ravnica, Ravnica Allegiance. New set now. I'm just going to say everything wrong tonight. It's a new year. This is the first time we've done this in 2019. Don't judge me. So we brought Matt in because, as we said, Matt takes archetypes from other formats. So he has kind of a little bit more of a knowledge base, at least than I do. I think Frexen, I think you played a little bit of Modern and you played a little bit of Pauper, right?
A little bit of Modern, a little bit of Pauper, and played Standard between Magic 2010 and Zendikar blocks.
Hacker, do you have any experience
Gave
outside
up on
of
that
Commander?
money pit.
Any experience in Modern? I watch Modern videos. Usually it's more of the jankier side of Modern, but I do really enjoy watching Jim Davis play. I think he's a great player, and I like watching him play. I've watched some other people play. Seth from MTG Goldfish. I think he seems like a pretty good player. He does play some of the strange decks, though. Very, very strange deck.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure strange is like 100% his brand. But
yeah, that's his calling card.
Yeah.
Well, Matt's probably the most modern player of us, and then I think you've said in the past that you've played a little bit of Legacy and Vintage.
No Vintage. I play mostly Commander, Modern, and Legacy, though. I have a couple day twos to my name in GP play. My first day two actually was Legacy out at GP Louisville a few years ago. I was playing Infex back then in Legacy, and it was super fun. And I have one career pro point to my name, even though that pro point doesn't mean anything with the new shuffle to the Pro Players Club and all that. But it still tells me on my Planeswalker page when I check my points, I have a professional point.
Look at you go. So we brought Matt in to talk about these mechanics, because we don't want to just talk about them in a Commander perspective. We want to talk about them kind of like throughout Magic altogether. If they're going to be good, if they're not going to be good, if they're not going to be worth anything, like certain ones that, you know, we'll get to eventually. But yeah. So with Ravnica Allegiance, it's the second of 3 sets for the Ravnica block, quote unquote block, because they're not blocks anymore, but they're all on the same damn plane and they're tied together by the way they're structured, so they're blocks. Don't argue with me. I got into a Twitter fight about this.
Didn't they say like they're dropping the block structure as we know it, but if they want to do a block, they can. It's just going to be kind of free form. So that way, if they do like this and they do return to Ravnica block, they can do it, but they don't have to do it any more than they want to. Really. Yeah.
So the big debate was that they're not called blocks anymore, and that's just, you know, not. They can bring them back in terms of like functionally what they do, but like there's not block drafts anymore. That's just not a thing anymore. So you're not gonna have like Guilds of Ravnica, Ravnica Allegiance, and then whatever the third set is, because we don't know the name yet. You're not going to see that as a block draft.
Isn't it milk as the name that we have currently?
I just mean like what it's actually going to be called, but yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But still, like it's a block because it's all the sets on a world. So to me, it's a block. If Wizards didn't come up with another name for what this is, it's a block. You can't take away a solution without give me a new one. I can't do that. Anyway, so for the second one, we are seeing the other 5 sides. In the first one, we saw Boros, Selesnya, Dimir, Golgari, and Izzet. So this time we are seeing Orzhov, Rakdos, Simic, Gruul, and
Azorius.
There we go. Oh yeah, I was gonna forget Azorius. You had to know that.
Hey.
They're worth forgetting. It's okay.
There you go. And unlike Guild of Ravnica, you shush. There's
Your guild
5
leaders. Be quiet.
Yeah, you're a traitor guild. Unlike in Guilds of Ravnica, there's 5 brand new mechanics. There's no like repeat mechanic this time. They're all brand new. So we're gonna go through each one of them. We have each ranked them from least to best personally. And we're going to kind of compare a little bit of the points of why we think that. What we're going to do is we're going to go through each mechanic. Everybody's going to say where in the ranking it is. So it's going to be a little confusing, but I think we'll get there in the end. So the first mechanic we're going to talk about is Afterlife. And if I was really smart, I would have brought up.
And these were assigned in order by our benevolent dead overlord director, Mr. Valdor. So
is he fully dead?
If you don't like the order we're doing them, blame
dead.
Valdor.
He's never fully dead, but so for example of an Afterlife card, Orzhov Racketeers was recently previewed this week. It is a 4 and a black human rogue 2/3 creature. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards the card, but the Afterlife is Afterlife 2. When this creature does, create 2 1/1 white and black spirit creature tokens with flying. So it's Afterlife X, where X is the number of spirits you're going to get. So it is in Orzhov, right? It's the Orzhov mechanic. It's token based and it's a death based thing. So like when we first saw Afterlife, the first thing I thought was aristocrats are going to love this because you sacrifice the creature for whatever it is that you're going to get out of it, and you get more ammunition to sacrifice to keep getting that thing. So whether it's Ashnod's Altar or Phyrexian Altar or something else, you know, whatever it is that you're sacrificing for, you're getting more things to keep doing that. And I thought that was really cool. So
aren't we all giving our rankings now for Afterlife?
Yeah. I was just giving some more context. Well, what did you think when you saw Afterlife Phyrexian?
So our rankings are 1 being the highest and 5 being the lowest. So anywhere from 1 to 5, where 1 is the best and 5 was the worst. And I gave Afterlife a ranking of 2 because I think it's pretty darn okay.
Pretty darn okay. I feel strongly about how okay I think this is.
Now, Magical Hacker. How did Magical Hacker feel about Afterlife?
Well, you got to pass the mic over to Matt first, because I mean you can't leave the guest for last. That's just rude.
No, I'm gonna go last.
But you can leave the best for last. That's cool.
Yes, I am going last.
All right.
Ian did not say his number. He just talked about it a little bit. Say your number, Hacker. Do it.
In that case, I'm gonna say that I think it's the 4th best from Ravnica Allegiance. Personally,
it's okay to be wrong, but
why the 4th best? I don't understand. Do you not understand what sacrificing things for value means?
Oh, I understand. I definitely understand. I have a Kraven Regna deck, and it's such a sweet piece of pleasant pie. But yeah, what do you think, Matt, about Afterlife?
So I had Afterlife at 3 actually, so I'll split the difference between you guys. Not because I don't like the mechanic. Actually, I just really like the 2 mechanics I had ranked above it. I'm among the mechanics. Yeah, Afterlife is kind of so. But I've never played a straight black-white deck before. But I already brewed a Teysa deck once the set comes out. New Teysa has me really excited. And the list looks super fun. I'm really excited about Orzhov. Just maybe, well, I mean, it's not even that I'm not excited about Afterlife because I know it's going to be pretty powerful. I really like the 2 I had above it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Old Mr. Cross, why don't you finish this up here?
I mean,
what do you think about Afterlife?
So I think originally, because we talked a little bit about this over the weekend. I think originally I had Afterlife either 2 or 1, but after some of the cards that came out today, I think I decided that it would probably sit at the 2 range. Same with Phyrexian. Again, like I play black a lot. I play a lot of Golgari. I do play aristocratic stuff. I play a lot of sacrifice stuff. So I do really think it's powerful to, when this creature goes, I can keep doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Especially like white got Anointed Processions in Ixalan, and there's just plus with stuff
Anointed
like Teysa.
Procession was Amonkhet, but yeah, still.
I mean, yeah, in Amonkhet. But like, and then as Matt alluded to, Tessa Karlov being this really cool creature where if a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So now when your creature dies and you go to get 2 tokens from Racketeers, you're actually getting 4 tokens, which if you have Anointed Procession means you're getting 8 tokens. So whatever you just sacrificed that one creature for, you could now do 8 more times. To me, that's insane. So
I actually like it too because of old Teysa Orzhov's Coin, because those tokens really go well with her ability too. Yeah, because then you can sack them to her ability to exile, but then you get more tokens.
Yeah.
Right? Because those tokens are black and white, so when you sack them to her ability, you get
white tokens.
And so it activates her exile ability even better. So I really like them for that reason too. I think Afterlife synergizes really well with not only what Orzhov has done and is doing in this block, but also with what it's done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Absolutely.
is why I really liked Afterlife as a mechanic. And another thing is, even if you aren't using the sacrifice for value and just trying to get extra sacks and extra things from it, I mean, even board wipe protection is a pretty good thing,
Yeah.
There's a reason Marchesa decks are so powerful. It's because those 1/1 counters just let all those creatures come back and it protects you from board wipes. There are reasons why that's a good thing to have. Board wipe protection and recursion are good things to have, and I just see Afterlife as a way to give some built-in protection against board wipes even.
Yeah,
definitely. Okay, you're gonna kill my 4/3 flyer. I get 2 1/1 flyers. I guess it's not as good, but I still got value, right? Well, the rest of the board just got cleared.
Especially in the standard format too. This is a format with Plague Crafter in there too. So, I mean, you curve out, play some creatures with Afterlife, and play your own Plague Crafter. You're gonna just start mowing down the board, sacrifice your own guys, and like you said, board protection too. There's a 4-mana Wrath back in standard again now. So blowing everything up, there's a real cost to that. So if you're popping, even 2 guys with Afterlife 2, I mean, you're increasing their board because you're blowing up the board. So
yeah,
it's going to create some interesting situations in the standard format for sure.
Yeah. Overall, we had 2 2s, a 3 and a 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right, yeah. So for the next mechanic, because we'll roll right into that, is going to be Spectacle, which is the Rakdos ability.
I'll just go ahead and read what Spectacle does. Spectacle allows you to cast the spell for its Spectacle cost, but only if an opponent has lost life this turn. So it goes with the Rakdos idea of opponents losing life. Even Rakdos himself had that ability in his last iteration. So, but there we go. Blade Juggler, where it's 3/2 for 5 mana, which is really bad. And when it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to you and you draw 1 card. But then if you've already dealt damage to an opponent, you can cast it for a Spectacle cost, which is 2 and a black, which is actually pretty decent for a common.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think, I don't want to say definitely, but I think all of the Spectacle costs are at least 1 less. This is 2 less. But I think all the Spectacle costs.
So some of them are more.
Yeah, really? You are wrong. You are wrong, Sir Cross.
There are some that are more.
What's the one that's more?
Let's go to my favorite Spectacle card, Rex Matty Reveler.
Yeah,
that one's pretty saucy. It's a 1 and a red for a 2/2, but its Spectacle cost is 2 black and red. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard a card, then draw a card, or if the Spectacle cost was paid, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. That's some heat.
Down.
Okay. So yeah, it could either be a bear or you could. Oh, this is because you only get the other effect if you pay the Spectacle cost.
Yes.
Right. It turns into a Bedlam Reveler type of effect.
It's almost like at that point, it's almost being used kind of like a kicker cost, where it's like, hey, you could pay this, or you could pay this more and get something with it. But there's another condition tacked onto it, which is the damage.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the nice thing here is if you don't want to spectacle it, like let's say you have something good in your hand, but you've already dealt damage, you can just pay it for 2 mana and be able to draw a discard, right?
No, for this particular one,
if you don't want to discard
it's a rummage. So if you pay the regular cost, you discard then draw.
Yeah.
But if you pay the spectacle, then you discard your hand.
Okay. Yeah. And get the 3 instead.
And all spectacle costs are May abilities, so you always can choose not to cast it for spectacle.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, Matt, you picked what your favorite card was for this one. What are you ranking this one on a 1 to 5?
I'm ranking this one a 2 actually. On the basis of I think it's going to have a fairly big impact in standard. A bunch of my buddies who I play all my competitive formats with, we were all talking about just there's going to be very little reason not to play Esper Control anymore. But black-red aggro is going to be fairly stout as well. And I think a lot of that's going to depend on how good Spectacle is. There's like a Thoughtseize type of card with Spectacle. There's the Light Up the Stage actually is the one that interests me a lot. Basically, you exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You can play them. So it's just almost like a ritual for cards. It's kind of like the Commune with Lava type of effect. I think that's going to probably be fairly good because there's some good mana sink type of effects in there too. The new enchantment that they previewed today, it doesn't blatantly have the Spectacle on there, but the Theater of Horrors. It's kind of like a Phyrexian Arena, but you can ping them and it's a mana sink. I think Spectacle might have a pretty good effect on standard.
So I think in at least memory serves that like back in Ixalan, it was kind of like really big for Grixis, like just to be like tribal removal, except for like the Favorable Winds deck that came out of it. But is this going to be kind of something similar where it's just going to be lots of black-red like removal and dumb stuff? Is that what you're thinking?
I think it'll probably be pretty similar to the red-black aggro that we had in standard before everything rotated out. I think Spectacle is going to make Goblin Chain Whirler a very powerful card again.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like it's kind of funny because everybody I think there's a lot of players that forget Goblin Chain Whirler is still a card. It only came out in Dominaria, but all they have to do to pay the Spectacle costs is just take any form of damage. Chain Whirler, it puts a body out, it can wipe the board, and it deals damage. So it's going to be a really quick way to turn it on. If there's any sort of like cool sack outlets, I think Judith has a lot of potential too. But Judith is going to, she's going to eat a removal spell right away. Like there's no way people are going to let Judith stick around.
Yeah, because it's just you don't want to be getting pinged for all that little stuff.
Right. Yeah, I think Judith will combo really well with some of the Afterlife cards, though. I mean, if you find a way to sacrifice your own creatures or just suicide them in, it doesn't matter because she's still going to ping them.
Yeah, you kind of have to like force bad blocks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Hacker. Why don't I was going to let Hacker go.
I was going to bounce to you next because we bounced to Hacker second last time.
Oh, you gotta keep it unpredictable, huh? So, Spectacle was actually my 3. So it was funny because Matt had, I think, Afterlife as his 3, and then this is his 2. So I'm basically the opposite of them. I did forget about stuff like Chain Whirler and stuff like that. So I guess I definitely see what Matt's talking about with some cards that were previously really good becoming good again, and then there was even some stuff back in Ixalan that was similar effects, like is Rampaging Ferocidon banned in standard?
Still,
yes,
still is.
Yeah.
Still banned.
Okay, well then I guess that's not going to be super crazy. But could you imagine a world where
that'd be
Ferocidon,
very good.
Maybe they unban it just to give Rakdos a chance.
I mean, even then, like you can just think about, there's Drill Bit, which is that Thoughtseize effect for 1. On turn 4, that's when the control decks are going to be playing their Wrath effects, going to be playing their, Settle the Wreckage.
Yep.
So you play your Chain Whirler for 3, you ping them, you Thoughtseize them for 1, get their Settle the Wreckage, and then you can keep going. I think there's going to be a lot of situations like that.
Yeah, kind of playing like the anti-control.
Mm-hmm.
I also followed DM's suit here and ranked this as ability as 3 because I saw the chance of it like making inroads in standard and actually having a place in standard. But the thing is, like, unlike Afterlife, I don't know how much effect Spectacle has on any other format other than standard. Because any other format you're talking about, whether it's modern or commander or other things, there are other cards that fill the slots of what the Spectacle cards are doing. Like even with the Reveler card you talked about, you mentioned Bedlam Reveler, which is just a better card to do that.
Right. Yeah, so I very much agree there.
The reason I kind of rated Spectacle lower is I see it having an impact on standard and even being pretty good in limited because they're giving enough support for it within the set. Yeah. So it could be good within standard and limited, but I don't see how good it's going to be or how impactful it's going to be in other formats, which is why I kind of rated it a little lower than Afterlife and the one I put in the first place, because I think they could see impacts in both. I don't know that Afterlife is going to have as big an impact in standard, but I could just see it having an impact in more formats than just standard. Whereas Spectacle, I really think is going to have a hard time finding inroads anywhere else.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Hacker, what about you? How do you feel about the polar opposite of your favorite colors?
Hey, who said I had favorite colors?
You do. You do constantly. Don't you lie to me.
One favorite color, not colors, sir. It's white.
There you go. He's not even deep enough to be a guild.
For any confusion, my favorite color is blue, okay?
No,
my least favorite color is green. So I actually really like Spectacle when it comes to the colors.
This is why you get fired a lot.
But I will say I also placed Spectacle right above Afterlife, putting Spectacle at 3. I think that, and my list was definitely almost entirely centered around Commander. In terms of Modern, I think Spectacle kind of is more in tune with what Modern's doing right now, where right now we're seeing kind of control decks and combo decks, they're kind of going a little bit lower. And it's been going on this trend for a while, I feel like. But right now, it's like aggro decks are like more than half of the types of decks that you'll see, especially with like Arc-like Phoenix decks, kind of pushing everybody to just be as fast as possible. I think that's why Spectacle can do a lot in Modern. But in Commander, I think it's going to give a reward to the decks that typically don't win as often, at least in our minds, from our like perception of the way Commander works, where we say, you know, people who they start from the beginning and they just try to attack and, you know, over time use those attacks to try to kill people. Spectacle really works well with those. So I think it's going to help people like, hey, I'm only attacking you so I can Spectacle stuff. And that happens, that makes it a lot easier to get that kind of thing done. That's why I placed it above Afterlife, which I wasn't even that excited for when I saw Afterlife because, I mean, sure, you can sacrifice things and get tokens, but let's say you have a Blood Artist on the field. If you have a board wipe, Blood Artist wants the tokens to come in with the body, not after the body. But anyways,
yeah,
that's Afterlife.
Not with a sack outlet. But I don't expect you to know how to play Magic, right? You're a blue player.
I have a sack outlet in the command zone, but even then, it's like I'd rather have the creatures come in all at once. You know.
Okay.
So what's our next mechanic, Mr. DM?
So the next mechanic is actually a pretty cool one. It's going to be the Riot mechanic. And I have a very specific card that I want to bring up, but I have to remember. What the hell is the name of the...
Well, here, just real quick, there's a card that was just spoiled that's going to trigger Spectacle pretty easily. Mason just sent it to me. Mason, who is another one of the EDHREC writers. Immolation Shaman, for you guys watching the stream here. Immolation Shaman is 1 in a red for a 1/3 Viashino Shaman. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land that isn't a mana ability, Immolation Shaman deals 1 damage to that player. Then you can also pay 3 red, and Immolation Shaman gets +3/+3 and gains a menace until end of turn. And it is a rare. So pretty easy to turn on Spectacle if it's just going to be pinging people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't hit Planeswalkers, though.
I was actually, when you were saying it, I was like, why didn't they just do...
Harsh Mentor.
Well, yeah, but they've been doing more of the player and Planeswalker or any target. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of weird that this one is, I don't want to say so limited, but so limited, as I said anyway. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm weird. No one's gonna jump.
Maybe.
So,
I mean, I don't know if I see it. It deals 1 damage. Is that right? 1 damage.
Deals 1 damage. Yes.
I don't know if 1 damage is gonna really do a lot in Commander. Again, that's where I'm looking at, like, from my perspective of Commander. 1 damage over time will deal a lot, but relying on your opponent to do something specific to be able to deal 1 damage to them, I mean, it's okay. It's not bad, but
yeah.
I mean,
okay.
I don't think it's great. I think it'll get a few plays, but I mean, you think about all the things like, I mean, you're who's the mono blue wizard deck?
Teferi? Or no, Azami?
Azami, yeah. You think about Azami, like they want to go infinite, like you're gonna punish them for doing that. So I think I think there's gonna be applications. I don't think it's something that you definitely want to play. I mean, it'll be in the top half of
If one
cards
of
from
your
the
friends has an
set.
Azami deck and you really want to piss them off,
100%.
Yeah, going back to talking about paying attention to what's going on in your meta.
dodge the
Alright.
counter spell, get it in play, and they'll never be able to remove it.
All right, so for Riot's the Gruul mechanic this time around, and it basically says it's a mechanic on creatures where they enter the battlefield with your choice, a +1/+1 counter, or haste. So if you guys remember from back in Theros where they had Tribute, where it was this creature enters the battlefield and your opponent or an opponent get to select whether to give something this or that, regardless of what that choice was. This is kind of like the same thing, but giving you the choice, and it's obviously been very centered around the 1/1 counter or haste. So you get to make your creature a little bit bigger, or you get to do something with that creature right now.
Right.
This one, the card I pulled up for this one is Rhythm of the Wild. It is an enchantment, 1 red and a green. It's an uncommon. Creature spells you control can't be countered, and all non-token creatures you control have Riot. So I wanted to put this specific card because I think this is a cool application of the mechanic too. It's not just like there are some creatures that just have Riot and like have a cool effect, but this one I thought was pretty. This is like a pretty amazing enchantment where it's basically kind of like a Fervor, but a little upgraded because you could just do the +1/+1 counter, especially if you have other ways of giving haste in your deck, I guess. So
I was literally saying this is like a better Fervor for Gruul decks for Commander, because it's like, okay, I can give haste, it gives haste, and here you go, my spells can't be countered. So I'm hurting the blue mage over there in Magical Hacker by my creature spells not being able to be countered, and they're coming in with haste now. So I just saw it as a better Fervor and like functionally for the most part even better Fires of Yavimaya. I know Fires of Yavimaya you can sacrifice to do the +2/+2 thing, but I really think this is probably even better than that in 98% of cases.
Agree. Yeah, I agree. This is actually currently my favorite card from Ravnica Allegiance, like for sure, without a doubt.
You're not allowed to like it. It's not your colors.
No, I really love this card. I love haste. I've been kind of digging more into the haste. Then seeing all the infinite combos with this card too, it just makes me love it even more.
All right. Well, since you haven't gotten to go first on mechanic there, Hacker, why don't you tell us what you rated Riot?
Yeah, absolutely. Riot for me is rated number 2 for Ravnica Allegiance. I really like it. What you were mentioning earlier about Rhythm of the Wild, I kind of wish they had done this in this set a little bit more. I mean, we don't know all the cards. At the recording of this video, we only know 113 of the cards. But I kind of wish they would do something like what Rhythm of the Wild is doing with as many of the other mechanics as possible, where they take the mechanic for the guild and they make cards that give that mechanic to other cards. Imagine how cool it would be that if there was a enchantment that was red and blue that said something like all your instants and sorceries have overload for 6 more or for 5 more or for 3 more or whatever. If it could give overload to your spells, that would have been super cool. And I like when they do stuff like this, where they give mechanics to other cards. Because, I mean, the Riot cards are cool. They're nice. They're not bad. But giving Riot, I think, is where you see a lot of really cool, interesting things happen with those mechanics.
Okay. I agree. I think it would have been cooler for... I don't know. If they did it too much, like Orzhov had every creature on your field has Afterlife 1 if it doesn't have Afterlife, or like any of the other ones, I think it would have been too much. It would have been like too much of the same. You know what I mean?
I mean, it would have been something that they could have made as an expensive creature or enchantment or something, where it's like if you're willing to play that 7-drop or whatever, then sure you can get that thing. But I think I just like mixing stuff. You know what I mean? I have that Johnny mentality. I just want to mix stuff all together.
So he likes blue. He says he doesn't
Very
like
cynic.
green. Doesn't
Very
or
cynic.
likes mixing things. I think you're playing the wrong colors. But, all right. I don't think I've gone second yet. There's 5 mechanics and only 4 of us, so there's gonna probably be one repeat combination here. But Riot is actually my number 1. Because of cards like Rhythm of the Wild, because of other kinds of cards where, like, as we talk more about the other mechanics, you're going to see +1/+1 counters again. The Azorius, actually, in this set, just got a card where they give +1/+1 counters. So I see a lot of where it's like, Ride is basically just free haste.
Mhm.
Mentor was the mechanic in Guild of Ravnica for Boros. That was a way to give +1/+1 counters. So it's almost like, here are your 2 options, but you actually don't have to choose a lot of the time if you like splash another color or something like that. So in terms of Commander, I see some of these cards being really cool. Like I've honestly seen Gruul have some of the coolest cards, including the Planeswalker, the Dami Raid Chaos something or other. Dami Raid.
Everybody loves to hate him though.
It's because he doesn't make pig tokens. What the hell? He literally
Makes
is.
boars.
He does not. He makes beasts.
Oh, they are beasts.
What is that?
Right.
There's more beast support than there is boar support.
I don't care. He's the boar riding guy. That's his whole
He
aesthetic.
can't win.
There's
I thought
2
Riot was your
boars
favorite.
in his card art.
Not his old card art. In his old card art, it was just graveyard
That
stuff.
was in Return of not in Return of Ravnica, whatever set that was. That doesn't matter anymore. This is Ravnica 3.0. Let's get with it, wizards.
Maybe he was just bored of the creature type. I don't know.
All right, you know what?
God.
All right, well, this was a fun attempt at a podcast. We'll try again next week, and we're out. All right, Frexian, have you gone 3rd yet? I think you've gone 3rd, but whatever, just go. Anything to sequence away from Hacker.
I also gave Riot my first. Just the ability to make choices in Magic is very powerful. It's the thing that you don't want to give your opponents very often, and you want the ability to have, choices. There's a reason Austere Command's such a good board wipe, because it gives you those choices and those options. Merciless Eviction, same thing. And this just gives you options. Every time you get the creature with Riot, or if you have Rhythm of the Wild and all your creatures have Riot, you get that option of haste or the 1/1 counter, and you can pick the option that's best for you. You aren't nailed into, okay, I'm going to play this 3/3 with haste when I really need a 4/4 because my opponent is playing, burn and is going to be able to burn my creature for 3 with their lightning strikes a lot. But so it would just die if I give it haste. I might get 3 damage in, but then it's just dead. But if I play it with a 1/1 counter, now it's a 4/4. It avoids their lightning strikes, and I have a creature that's going to stick around unless they burn 2 pieces of removal on it. So it's the options that it gives you, it's the flexibility it gives you to play around that I think makes Riot really the best mechanic of the set, because it just gives you those options and gives you the ability to play around. Whether you're playing it in Standard or Modern or Commander, wherever you're playing it, options is always the way to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll go to Matt for his ranking.
I'm going to agree with both of you guys, actually. Riot is my number 1 as well.
There you go.
So only Hacker's wrong. Got it.
Yeah, it was voted on, and we decided that Hacker...
You're
off the island.
Sorry, buddy, but
it's fine. I didn't want you guys anyways.
Hey, we all made a vote, and somebody's got to go.
Yeah, there's that Ravager worm that gives you even more options than just Riot.
Right? Look at this thing. Oh my goodness. You can do it all.
Yeah, all these options.
So was your reasoning, Matt? Was it similar to Phyrexian's with just options are good? It
was. I think red-green aggro in draft is going to be wildly good with this set. You have Skargan Hellkite, which has Riot as well, which is basically going to be the Stormbreath Dragon or Glorybringer of this set. Just that creature's going to come down and be very hard to get rid of. It's going to be big fatty, and the activated ability isn't a joke either.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just going to be a very powerful Very powerful mechanic for standard. I don't know if it'll break into modern necessarily. The power level is pretty high there, and everything's kind of cramped. But some backstory on me. Every time that I've drafted, probably for the past 5 years at least, going back before like Oath of the Gatewatch, I either force red-green aggro or red-white aggro.
Mm-hmm.
I forced red-white a lot in draft, and I'm going to force a lot of red-green in draft. So, yeah, Riot looks like a Riot to play.
Please stop.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'd like to stop.
And Rhythm of the Wild, you guys hit the nail on the head with that one. I think that's going to be a very highly played commander card. If you're playing red-green, like I know for sure I'm probably going to put that in my Angry Omnath deck. It doesn't deal with tokens or getting landfall triggers, but it does give them all haste, so I can play a land and swing for 5 extra out of nowhere.
Well, I do want to mention it is only non-token creatures.
Oh, well, never mind. Scratch that.
Rhythm's only non-tokens.
Sorry to burst the bubble.
I'm the guest. I'm not.
However,
I'm allowed to be wrong, and you guys have to go with it.
That deals with dragons. Now it's gonna love this card.
Yes,
Yeah.
Dargans will be all about it.
Yeah, Dargans are all about that card.
Yeah, what better than making your dragons even faster?
Yes. What better than making Artarka uncounterable and giving it haste?
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the biggest thing for Rhythm of the Wilds. Uncounterable is always like something, and Gruul's done it before. Like you have Vexing Shusher, you have. If you want to go into Tamur, doesn't Sarkhan, he's uncounterable, stuff like that. So
there's a Spellbreaker Behemoth is another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch. There's a bunch that will help protect.
So I think
Tyrant,
it's
right?
yeah, and I think that's just something that Gruul kind of does need to break through. No pun intended, but break through like control decks sometimes. Because if they get their slimy blue hands on all those cards, there's going to be counters. Speaking
I think it's going to be more the haste enablers for Gruul to get through the control decks. Taking a turn 3 to not do anything is kind of a death sentence in standard, especially when it gives them another. They have another 4-mana Wrath. I think that might not be the case, but just I think the not the Ravage Worm, the Spellbreaker dude in standard. I think that'll be pretty powerful because that does give you Settle the Wreckage insurance. And then, like I said, the new dragon will be very, very powerful as well.
Yeah, the Hellkite. All right, Hacker, with your slimy blue hands getting all over those cards.
I had it at number 2. Everybody else had it at number 1.
Everybody else was right.
Now we're talking about adapt.
You know what they say? Great minds think alike, but fools rarely differ.
I think you just made that up.
No, that's the rest of the saying.
No,
I think you just made it up.
Yeah.
Someone give me evidence. Someone support me because I know it's for real, but I'm in the middle of a podcast.
So for adapt, I'm actually going to bring up one of the legendary creatures from the set that deals with adapt, which is Zagana, no longer Prime Speaker, but Utopian Speaker. Kind of weird. She got demoted to Utopia as opposed to whatever the Prime was. Anyway, she's a legendary Merfolk Wizard for 2 green-blue. She's a 4/4. Which is pretty badass. When she enters the battlefield, if you control another creature with a 1/1 counter on it, draw a card, which is kind of what I was alluding to previously, where we were going to talk about counters a little bit more as we went further in. For 4 green-blue, she has Adapt 4. If this creature has no 1/1 counters on it, put 4 1/1 counters on it. So basically a repeatable monstrosity if you can get the counters off, and her last ability says each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has trample. So Hacker went first, I went first. Matt, you go first. What do you think of Adapt?
So Adapt is the one I feel the least comfortable about, but I have Adapt at 5 actually.
Okay.
I just putting counters on everything for such a high cost. It'll probably be fine for some commander if you're playing some battle cruiser type decks. I just think it's for the mana investment that it takes. It's not going to be great. It's only abusable if you can take the counters off, which means more than likely you're just going to put, activate it once and go about your day. It's fine. Simic kind of gets rewarded for doing anything. You sit down at the table and you automatically draw 10 extra cards. So yeah, it's fine. I think Simic Ascendancy is really spicy, but that's not really adapt.
I ranked adapt at 4, but it's only because of how much I dislike the mechanic at number 5 and how bad I think it is. I put adapt at 4. I think adapt encourages players to play bad Magic. It encourages you to waste your mana on things that are not worth it when you could be using your mana for better things, especially when you're in the colors of green and blue. There are so many better things to waste your mana on than, putting 6 mana to make Zagana a 4/4, even if she then has trample 2, or an 8/8, even then if she has trample 2, to put those 4 1/1 counters on her. Like Matt said too, just removing the counters is the best way to adapt. I would be more into adapt if it was just like, why can you only adapt once?
But
how does that even make sense with the word? Well, you can only adapt more than once if you don't have 1/1 counters, or if you have the one card that says you can pretend it doesn't have 1/1 counters. So there are ways to get around it, but what would have made the ability I'd like it? I still wouldn't like it too much because I still think it's a waste of mana for all the cards that have adapt. It seems like a waste of mana to get the counters on, but it would be better if you could just keep adapting. Why can't I adapt and then adapt again and then adapt again? Why was it decided it was too powerful to have to pay 6 mana to make it an 8/8, and then 6 more mana to make it a 12/12, and then 6 more mana to make it a 16/16? I mean, why was that decided to be too powerful? Would just be my question.
I think that might have just gotten hard to keep track of, because I was thinking the same thing. Just you have adapt and it does X counters and then it costs X more mana, but then tracking that, especially with reminder text, I think it could have just gotten crowded.
I don't know. I kind of so I'm with Frexian for this one. I did also put this at 4. Just the reason why I originally had it at 5, I think, and then I bumped it up to 4 because we started seeing some cards again, either today or over the weekend, where you do get to move counters off of creatures, and one of them is the Combine Guildmage, where for 1 blue and tap it, you can move a 1/1 counter from target creature you control to another target creature you control. I think this could have been a better mechanic if we had more effects, or if there was even one effect, like a reprint of Bioshift or something, where you could just move all the counters from one thing to another. That would have made it better. But the 1 at a time thing, I think I even said on Twitter, the 1 at a time thing is just too much. It's too slow and you're wasting too much mana. Kind of what Frexian's saying. And Valdor he mentioned that he has adapt at 5. So we're all pretty low on it. Hacker, what's yours?
I put adapt at number 5 as well, in agreement with Valdor here. And for me, especially looking at it from the perspective of Commander, having big creatures is nice and everything, but having to not be able to cheat out their bigness, right? Because you have to activate that mana cost to be able to adapt, I think is part of the problem here. Now, to be fair, we haven't seen that many adapt cards, and there's only 2 adapt cards currently that have been spoiled that have any other relevant text for Commander other than their adapt cards, and that's Skatewing Spy, which I don't think we've talked about yet, and Zagana, which we have talked about yet. Skatewing Spy, for 6 mana, you can adapt 2, and it's a 2/3 for 4. But the interesting part here is that each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has flying. So I think a lot of times these adapt cards might be played more for how they work well in a +1/+1 counter deck. But when it comes to +1/+1 counter decks, they're not as great normally anyways. They usually struggle to close out the game compared to a lot of the more common strategies. But one thing that I think might be causing everybody, including myself, to kind of view adapt lower than we should is how similar it is with Monstrosity and how that didn't really do anything in Commander. The difference with adapt and Monstrosity you could only activate as a sorcery. Adapt, you could activate at instant speed. So we might see that, Simic in this set becomes very play small creatures out, have a lot of mana untapped, and then if I don't need to use my mana to counter something, I adapt my creatures and they become bigger and a harder to deal with creature on the board. So I still think, though, it is at number 5. I just like I mean, I might be wrong. Maybe Afterlife is lower than Adapt, but for right now, from what we have in our knowledge, I think Adapt is probably lower than.
You're definitely wrong about that. Adapt is definitely much worse than Afterlife. But because just look at this card right here, you have a 2/3 for 4 mana, which is bad.
Mhm.
And then if you pay 6 more mana, you have a 4/5 with flying. So if you pay a total of 10 mana, you now have a 4/5 flyer. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's the
This is
value
why I
there.
hate Adapt, because it encourages people. It encourages people who don't know enough about Magic. It encourages new players to the game who get into it in Guilds of Ravnica to try, or Ravnica Allegiance, and they get in this block. Even though it's not a block, whatever. If they get in this block, it encourages them to try to do stupid, bad things, like pay excessive amounts of mana for things that are not good. If you put a flyer out there and said, here's this 4/5 flyer, pay 10 mana, unless you're playing Magic back in 1996 or 7, you're going to be like, hell no. But then you put Adapt on it, and some new players are going to be like, oh yeah, that seems like a great idea.
No, I think here it's going to help teach the new players to not activate something until you absolutely. Think of the teaching opportunities, Frixian. Think about how young players will see the cards and they'll be like, now I understand. I need to wait to do stuff.
No, see, I am a teacher. And I teach kids how to play Magic because we have a Magic club at the school. I teach them how to play Magic, and I'm telling you, I have watched them make this mistake time and time again, and they will make this mistake with this card, and this is why I think it's a bad mechanic, because it just encourages those new players who don't know better to play the game poorly, and then it requires people to try to convince them and show them how it's bad. And that's not always the easiest thing to do once they're invested in that strategy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I totally agree with you. It's not a good idea to try to just.
You haven't tried to teach enough teenagers magical hacker, because it's not an easy job.
I can't say that I've taught too many. I taught my 2 brothers who were teenagers at the time. Now one of them is not a teenager anymore. But I think these cards, I think they're not like horrible for Commander if you're not looking at the Adapt part of the card. If you're looking at the Adapt part of the card, you might as well just kind of forget that it's there. You know what I mean? In Standard, I don't know if it's going to affect it, like being able to hold up your mana, and then if you don't need to use it, then to adapt. Maybe. I don't know.
Aye.
Rexing. Who hurt you?
So you see how much I hate this mechanic?
Who hurt you?
Imagine when Addendum comes out.
No,
just imagine.
This is now your intervention. Who did this to you? Why are you like this? You're so mad.
So many reasons. So
real quick before we do go to Addendum, I do just want to I think a couple of us mentioned that the adapt costs are very high. The one thing I've seen about adapt as the preview days go by is that there's always like one card that comes out almost each day that seems like, oh, okay, well that makes sense of why they're doing it. And I want to just highlight Biomancer's Familiar here as a Simic card that they printed for adapt most likely, but I think this is going to be a really cool card just in general in Commander. It doesn't have to be an adapt card, but it's a green-blue creature mutant 2/2. Activated abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the amount of mana and ability cost to activate less than 1 mana, and tap it the next time target creature adapts this turn. It adapts as though it had no 1/1 counters on it. So this kind of is like the fixer, quote unquote, for adapt. I don't think that's alone makes adapt good, but the fact that it's got a training grounds effect on it, I think it's going to be really cool for Commander.
Yeah,
I just want to say that we got like a new training grounds. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's kind of
cool.
We got
training grounds for Simic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, training grounds was mono blue anyway, so. All right, the last one.
Well, before we move on, you want to just recap here? You and Frixian put adapt at 5 or at 4, I believe, and then Matt, did you put it at 5? I believe you put it at 5.
I did put it at 5, yeah. And one thing that I think people are forgetting is you can adapt at instant speed. So like we were talking about the one that gives your dudes flying, for example. That's this kind of surprise blocker. Adapt him out of nowhere, make him a blocker for 6. And it's not the most efficient thing, but leaving mana open and being flexible, I think that's something that is worth mentioning. That's why I'm kind of torn. I think Hacker, like what you said, is we haven't seen enough of, at least I think we haven't seen enough adapt cards to really know how good this ability is, because it is instant speed. I don't. This is Moose, by the way, everybody.
Probably that fact, the fact it's instant speed, and the fact I just really, really, really think the next mechanic is worse. That puts it at 4 for me.
I mean, there's kind of a trend though. If you look at all the mechanics that we have the least amount of cards for, Adapt, we have, it's the third most. Then Afterlife, we have only 5 cards with that mechanic, and then Addendum only has 4 cards.
But I will say that Addendum has probably one of the coolest cards that have been revealed in the set so far, and I still think Addendum sucks.
The splashiest for sure, I think, and I think I know which card you're talking about.
Is it Emergency Power? Is that what it's called? Let me see.
Yes.
Emergency Powers is a horrible card.
You stop it.
It is. It's terrible.
You're a terrible card. Shut up. All right, so the last mechanic we're going to talk about.
We will fight over this if we have to. But it is
Addendum,
a terrible card.
as you see on Emergency Powers. The Addendum mechanic itself says if you were to cast a spell during your main phase, you may get an extra effect. So for Emergency Powers, it's you may put a permanent card with converted mana cost 7 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. Where Emergency Powers, if it was cast as an instant, because it is an instant, or I should say if you were to cast it during somebody else's turn or not during your main phase, it's 5, a white, and a blue, and each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into the library, then draws 7 cards, and you exile it. So the Addendum is like the keywording of Return to Dust is the best way that I've been explaining it to people. Return to Dust, you can get 1 enchantment or artifact and exile it for 4 mana, or if you play during your main phase, you can get 2. So that's what Addendum is. And since Phyrexian is so raring to go, we're just going to let him off the chain. Everybody, we'll be back in 5 minutes. You guys in the chat, you hang out. The 3 of us are going to go. Phyrexian, go on.
I recommend putting your stream on mute for the next maybe 5-10 minutes.
Addendum is a hard 5. Much for some of the same reasons I was talking about Adapt being 4, but it's even worse because what do you want to do? What is blue-white known for? Control.
Opters.
Control, people, is known for control. And what should any control player know is the most powerful thing you can do as a control player: hold up your mana and hold up answers. And Addendum encourages bad players who don't know better to go for it's like, here's this low-hanging fruit. Will you come and grab this low-hanging fruit off the tree and then be trapped with no mana to respond to everything your opponents are going to do for the next 3 turns if you're in Commander, or your opponent's going to do for the next turn if you're in Standard or Modern or something else. You take this low-hanging fruit and then be stuck with no mana to do this one extra thing, whether it's scry 3 cards or the real fun one, gain 2 life after you draw 2 cards, or even this card. Look at this card. What the heck? You are not only drawing yourself 7 new cards, you're drawing your opponent 7 new cards. And if you happen to do it in your main phase and you get to drop a permanent 7 or less, guess what? You just drew them 7 new cards where they probably have removal for that permanent. If they build their decks worth anything, they probably have removal for the permanent. Especially in Commander, one of your 3 opponents will have removal for that 7 drop. You just dropped down on the field. Congratulations. You wasted 7 mana to give everybody else more cards and get your thing removed by one of them. Guess it's a lightning rod for 1 piece of removal. Congratulations. 7 mana. Are you kidding me? It's a horrible card. I would not play it in any format. Not Commander, not Standard, ever. Zero chance.
You forgot about the Addendum that gives Vigilance.
Just
no, please, somebody else go.
It's just bad.
The rest of the podcast can't just be Phyrexian yelling into the void.
So right. Phyrexian had that. What was it? Like a 3 or a 4?
I'm gonna mute my mic because I'm gonna have to 5, sir. I'm gonna mute my mic because otherwise I'm not gonna be able to stop.
I think if Phyrexian could rate it as a 6 or 7, I think he would.
-2. He's rating at -2.
I want to know what he really feels.
I'm not sure, Matt.
How do you really feel? Let your feelings out. Just
yeah.
Let it all out.
So what did you think, Matt, about Addendum?
Not that bad.
Well, where does it rank?
So I put Addendum at a 4. at Addendum, we only, like we've said about Adapt, we've only seen a few cards, not enough. I actually really like emergency powers. I think Addendum, I was talking to another EDHREC staff, Henry, our former editor, and he made a really good point that Addendum almost makes everything a modal spell. It's kind of taken a little bit further than I think I would have, but it is true. Like, it gives you a little bit of flexibility. I don't know if it encourages you, like Phyrexian said, to make bad decisions, but I think it's good incentivizing because you're getting extra payoff to play at sorcery speed. I mean, people don't say Return to Dust is a bad card because you have to play it at sorcery speed. And the fun thing is, it says during your main phase, it doesn't say as a sorcery. So you get into a counter war, precognitive perception. It's the draw 3 cards for 5. If you cast it during your main phase, you scry 3, then draw 3. I think that's a good way to remember that it has to be in your main phase. It doesn't have to be at sorcery speed. So if you need to, draw into a counter spell, you cast your main thing, the other control player's countering yours, precognitive perception, draw 3 cards, scry 3, then draw 3. You can draw your extra counter spell then. I don't think it's bad. The new one, and I forget the name because it was spoiled in Chinese and I only saw what the card does, but United
Stand. It's called on Scryfall, like Stabby. Strong and Stabby is what it's called.
Strong and Stabby. Mythic Spoiler says, Mythic Spoiler says it's United Stand, so it's the 2 and a white instant. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Pretty good as an instant, but if you play it as play it on your main phase, they also get a +1/+1 counter and vigilance, which I think that's going to win you games. And we were talking about comparing that card to Heroic Intervention, where everybody gets hexproof and indestructible. That's a fine card, and it helps you not lose the game. But United Stand is going to help you win the game because you're playing it at on your main. It's not as good. I don't like it as much as some of the other mechanics. I don't think it's a bad mechanic by any means, because I think they found a good way to incentivize slowing it down, playing on your main phase. And one thing that I really liked about Dovin Bond too was it was a blue-white planeswalker that cared about attacking. That's something that I like drafting. I'll play blue-white flyers every now and then, but they haven't really encouraged combat and attacking with creatures in blue-white in a long time. So I hope the more that we see with this set, especially at the common and uncommon level, is we see more creatures that want to be attacking in the blue-white decks.
Yeah.
And I think Addendum's going to be a good way to do that.
I think, like with United Stand, I think you're going to start seeing some bleed over from other guilds a lot in.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Like we saw a little bit of it in the last set. I think we're going to see it in this set because like the whole giving, if you're playing this during your main phase and you get the 1/1 counters, between that and the spy thing we were just talking about, everything with a 1/1 counter has flying. So you just made all your creatures 1 power and toughness stronger, fly, indestructible, and have vigilance.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of things to do with mana in this set.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of 3-color decks be attempted. I don't know if they're going to be successful, but they're going to be attempted because I could see Bant being a thing. I saw some Sultai decks on Arena that were not terrible, but they also
were interesting.
They weren't winning, Mythic and Ranked or anything like that, but they seemed like they worked out pretty well. So I think we're gonna see some kind of cool stuff as the guilds all join the battle all at one time. For me, Addendum's a 5 as well. A lot of it is just that I don't think the effects are good enough. I don't mind Addendum as the mechanic itself, but I don't see any of the effects being good enough. I don't mind the whole holding up mana because in Azorius control, you're probably going to hold up mana anyway. So if you're holding it up for a counter, or if you're holding it up in case you have to do one of these spells, or if you're just going to... Hopefully you're doing something with your mana. That I kind of get Phyrexian's point where if you hold your mana up and do nothing, you've wasted your time. or you wasted your turn to hold up that mana. Which is why I say, like, I think you're gonna see Bant decks where, like, you're gonna hold up your mana in case you need to react, and then if nothing happens, you're gonna adapt whatever the big dumb thing is on your field. You're gonna dump your mana into that. So that's I see stuff like that maybe happening, but on its own, I don't know. Again, like the only United Stand and Emergency Powers, I think, are the only two cool cards because of their how cool their effects are. Not necessarily like, the mechanics fine, because again, like Matt said, nobody complains about Return to Dust. Everybody plays Return to Dust in Commander, so I don't have a problem with the mechanic.
Return to Dust is one of the most played white cards in Commander, like in the entire format.
Yeah.
And they just keyworded basically the Return to Dust mechanic.
And yet, when Crush Contraband came out, I replaced Return to Dust in every single one of my decks with Crush Contraband.
I did that as well, yeah. But and at the same time,
that's because when you can do it at actual instant speed instead of having to wait for your main phase to remove two things, it's just better. And that's the case with like some of these cards give extra effects, but the extra effects are not better enough to justify playing it in your main phase, except for, the 2% of case you're talking about. Or yes, United Stand is a good card. I'm not going to say that there won't be good cards with addendum printed on them. I'm saying the mechanic in itself for the main part is just bad.
I like the idea of top decking Emergency Powers, casting it main phase, and putting Karn in play. I think that seems okay.
Yeah, and in Commander, there's going to be permanents that are going to be hard to deal with, whether they're indestructible or they have hexproof or something like that. I mean, if you drop like a hexproof, like let's just say Carnage Tyrant or something, and somebody wastes board wipe for that, I see that as a fine trade. I mean, removal is kind of a game of trading. Did the one card out of that person's hand equal the one card that they removed off my field? Right. Carnage Shrine for, let's say, a Wrath of God. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's a good trade. Like, I made out. Especially, like, let's say you don't have enough cards in hand, because isn't Emergency Powers draw 7?
Draw 7, yep.
If you're playing Azorius and don't have enough cards in hand, you built your deck poorly anyway.
Well, you got to have cards that do that, though, right?
You're talking about a situation, like he's talking about a situation where you're top decking this in Azorius. If I'm playing Azorius and I'm top decking, something has went horribly awry to begin with.
I mean, that's part of why...
It really depends on the format, too. Like, if you're playing Commander, yeah, there's probably other things, but like in Standard, this is going to be great. In Limited, which is what most of this is designed for, it's going to be great. Like, and I think it's easy to always think about what's the best case scenario. And we talked about this on a recent episode of the EDHRECast. Is it's easy to think in Magical Christmas Land when evaluating all these cards, but then how many times do you actually get that maximum payoff, or how many times does your deck actually do exactly what you want it to do without being interrupted? Sometimes you have to think about the floor, and man, Emergency Powers, if there's some sort of a board stall, you have maybe even just 2 or 3 cards, drawing a whole new grip and then casting a 7-drop for free. I mean, it's kind of like a blue-white Rishkar's Expertise.
7-drop permanent, not any 7-drop permanent.
Yeah. Well, either way. I mean, I think
you play a hexproof dude, and then you can kind of stabilize from there. I think it's fine. Like you're paying 7 mana to get a 7-drop and draw 7 cards.
How much is that Esper Flash Dragon? How much does it cost?
If you draw a 7-drop.
Well, I mean, yeah, you do have to
because again, you're doing a Magical Christmas Land where you draw 7 cards, and one of them is actually a 7-drop, one of them is actually a Karn, which is easier to do in Standard or Modern or other formats than Commander, but still not guaranteed. You could draw 7 cards, and you're putting a land on the battlefield.
Chromium is.
I mean, if we're playing blue-white control in Standard, we'll go with that. You're playing for Teferi, and if you're drawing 7 cards, it's not going to be hard to draw Teferi.
It might happen. It might not happen every time, but it doesn't need to happen every time for it to be a good card.
Yeah, I think Addendum is going to be just fine.
Still weakest of the mechanics, though.
Yeah, I think it's going to be weaker than the other mechanics we've talked about, but I have a hard time thinking it's 5.
Is that? Yeah, Hacker. Because Hacker, you haven't gone, right?
I haven't gone yet, and that's because
All right, let's hear
nobody
your
wants-
nonsense.
no one wants to hear me say that I think Addendum is my favorite mechanic from the set. And I honestly, I think Phyrexian, and I think both of you guys made some great points about, what Addendum is lacking, especially, looking from standard, limited, modern, and commander. But personally, the reason I like, when I saw Addendum, the reason that I was so happy to see it is because it communicated something very simple to me. That in this set, Azorius, their sorceries are going to be replaced with instants. So instead of having a sorcery that scries 3, then draw 3 cards, instead they have an instant that draws 3 cards, or if you cast it as a sorcery, which, we talked a little bit about why that's not only as a sorcery, you can cast it in response to something on your main phase. You get to scry 3 and draw 3 cards. As a white-blue player, I would say I like white and blue a lot. I've also started building a white-blue control deck this month. I've been kind of tweaking it for Commander. Seeing this is something that I'm really happy to see. Now, I don't know if I'm actually going to play Emergency Powers or Sphinx's Insight or Precognitive Perception in any of my decks, but I still like Addendum because of the fact that it means that there's more of a likelihood that I'll be finding an instant that's super sweet for this deck. And like New Dark Cloud says, Emergency Powers is a way for Azorius to draw cards at instant speed. One of the great things about Sphinx's Revelation was the fact that it had that mode that if you had to use all your removal to stay alive and you're at 1 life, and suddenly you draw into that card, you can draw up to a new hand and be fine. If you need to cast it during your main phase to have a blocker in case your opponent's playing hasty stuff with Riot, you can do that with Emergency Powers. If you can wait to do it on the end step before your turn, you can do that, and you can draw up to 7. You can have your opponent draw up to 7 as well. In Commander, there can be even crazier things that you do with it. You could be playing stuff like Words of Waste, which if you pay 1 mana, every time you would draw a card, instead each opponent discards that many cards. Or Notion Thief is probably a better example, where it hurts your opponents for drawing extra cards. So a lot of times you see like these Esper decks, sometimes white-blue decks that they don't want opponents to be drawing a lot of cards. And I think you can use wheels here with those effects that previously you couldn't really do, in the past. Especially ways in Esper decks, if you want to be able to discard everybody's hand, it's really sweet to use those cards with Emergency Powers, since you can make sure that people have cards in order to discard to trigger yours. Nothing worse than having a Waste Knot on your field and everybody's in top deck mode, so they're never triggering your Waste Knot anymore. But just to mention one thing, we do have the list from Valdor in terms of where he rated them as well, and I really want to talk about this so that I'm not by myself with at least thinking that it is okay.
Nope,
so,
we're out of time. We're out of time. Everybody, bye. Peace. See you next time. Next Monday. Thanks for being here,
Valdor put Adapt at the bottom, number 5. Afterlife at number 4. Number 3, he put Riot. Then number 2 was Addendum, and number 1 was Spectacle. And honestly, I think with so few cards, my list is probably going to change. I'm actually going to bet that it's going to change before we see all the cards spoiled. Because, like I said, for some of these mechanics, we only have like 4 or 5 cards so far. So there's a lot of room for these mechanics to improve or unimprove, whatever the word is for that.
Addendum.
Make an addendum for your list. That seems
I think
fair.
I think what we should do for next Monday is that, because the whole set will be out by then, we should, because next Monday we're going to talk about the whole set and what we feel about it and the guilds and everything like that. But we should have everybody redo their list and see if it's changed. And Matt, if you want to do yours, and we'll just announce it on the show.
I can do that.
And then we'll have Valdor do his too. That way we can kind of be like, this is what everybody's list was during the podcast with, limited amount of knowledge, and the whole set's out. This is what we think, and kind of how our wides changed a little bit. And we'll do like the last like 10 minutes or so of that. But
it will be really short because it'll be, here's my list. It's the same. It didn't change.
Addendum's still -2.
-2 is higher than 1. That's a good thing. You want it to be a big number, not a small number.
I want to be very clear that I really dislike both mechanics a lot.
Which one?
Which one?
Dislike Addendum a little bit more than Adapt. Just a little bit more.
Oh, I see.
All right, so Addendum was 5
Not
for
leaps and
me,
bounds.
5 from Phyrexian, 4 from Matt, and 1 from Hacker.
Yep. One from me.
All right. It's got to be hard being wrong, like so badly wrong. But all right, guys.
Look,
We'll hope...
2 for Valdor too. So if we throw him in there,
nobody wants
guy
to.
counts.
Valdor's wrong enough to be dead. So I mean,
Look, all I'm saying. So it's a previous inside joke, Matt, that he had to die for me to come onto this podcast. But I think it's good for the podcast because no one wants to hear a echo chamber. Everybody likes to hear different sides of the coin and see what people disagree on.
But that only counts if all the arguments are valid.
I mean, it's okay that Friction wasn't completely in line with what he was saying, but that's okay. I think he still made a couple of good points.
All right, well, we're going to end this before Friction goes off. All right, we hope you guys enjoyed that. This was our Ravnica Allegiance MEcanics episode, so very different rankings from everybody, except for me and Friction, as per usual, we're kind of on the same page, I think, for most. Actually, was our list the same?
It was, I think.
All right, listen here.
Do you guys remember anything that you disagreed on?
No,
I'm
sir.
pretty sure. Yeah.
May I just say that my list did not change. Your list you put in the Discord was different.
Yeah.
So you conformed to me.
No, a couple of cards came out, and I was like, oh, wow, some of these are really good.
It's okay. You saw my rankings, which I posted after you, and then you realized, hey, that's
I didn't
the way
see your
as a
rankings.
Bulgari player I should actually do.
I don't even remember your rankings. I just remember the couple of cards that came out after, because I posted it, yesterday?
Sure. Yeah.
No, really, I posted yesterday, right? And then we had a whole preview day. Things change. That's why we're doing next Monday. We're going to see how much things change again with 3 more preview days.
Mm-hmm.
Listen here, you're fired, so you don't get to talk.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm excited for next week. I want to see if my list changes. Cause...
I hear you're sarcastic. Mm-hmm.
No, right. I'm not sarcastic now. I was sarcastic before though.
All right, Matt, you are on EDHREC. You're on Twitter. You're on a podcast. So you want to go ahead and plug your stuff real quick?
Sure. So like DM said, I do the 60 to 100 article series. Take all the 60 card constructed decks and port them into Commander. You can find those over on articles.edhrec.com. I'm on the EDHRECast with Joey and Dana. Those are my co-hosts. You can follow the podcast at EDHRECast. Follow me on the Twitter at Mathimus55. That's MATHIMUS55. Send us an email. Do whatever you want to do. Check out the podcast. We go into depth about different topics on how to use the site, what some of the data means, because if you guys haven't checked it out, we keep adding stuff to EDHREC, and
awesome stuff.
It can be a little overwhelming sometimes, and so we try to kind of break it down for people and show people how to use the site, and it's really fun because Joey uses the site completely different from Dana, who uses the site differently from me, and so it's cool just to see how other people are using it, because I know how I use it, but it's fun picking each other's brains while we're kind of discovering and trying to explain it to the masses as well. So if you guys have any questions or features, feel free to give us a shout on Twitter, and we're always looking for what do people like seeing, and what can we do to help make the podcast and the site itself better. So yeah.
I actually have, I know this is kind of a last minute in the show, but I have an idea, or rather a question. You guys know how on the front page you have the random commander, and then recently you added like top commander this week or this month or something like that. Would it be kind of, I think it would be kind of cool to see like random underplayed commander where it's above a certain threshold, it won't show up in that list, or maybe it's like underplayed commanders that are pretty popular this week. I think that'd be kind of cool to see.
And we thought about the variance, like the commander that has the biggest variance historically compared to the past X days. And I think the last time I talked to Don, so those of you who don't know, Don Miner is the one who programmed the site, and it started out as a Reddit bot and grew to what we know it is now. I think the problem that he had with Delta compared to historic over the past however many days you want was getting the formula right, and then making sure there are enough decks to feed into that over a certain amount of time.
I got you.
But yeah, it's something that we've definitely considered, and I think plugging something that is played in under X amount of decks, and that was kind of the goal of Commander of the Day, is to get random ones going on without, that people don't know. But we'd never set really a threshold, so I think that's something that we could consider. Yeah.
Cool.
And I'm not speaking authoritatively for the site. Like I've been fired more times than anybody else.
Not more times than Hacker, and he's only been here for a couple months.
I was just thinking, like, it's nice having somebody else get fired and it's not me for once.
It's just the mats. That's what happens whenever you have a mat. They're just
jealous of the power that comes in that name.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
Well, anyway, Hacker just wasted all his time with that question, so he doesn't get to plug himself. I'm Frexy. You can find me on the Discord. That's it.
Frexy, you're so angry today. Are you okay?
I went back to teaching. I had a long break, and then now I have to get kids ready for exams.
Hacker, can you plug your stuff within 2 minutes?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to talk about mats first?
No, I want you to plug your stuff in 2 minutes.
Segue?
And the root word,
all right, so
which
no, stop it.
All right, so 3 things real quick. I have a tapped out page where I have a lot of staple effects. So if you want to find a card draw that's really good that everybody plays, you can go there. If you want to find card draw that nobody plays that's also really good, you can go there. It's tappedout.net /users/magical hacker, all one word. I've got a Twitch channel that I've started to do some streaming on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m., which is not the Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays that Praetor Magic does stream. So Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern time, I do 3 Commander games on Magic Online. I let the chat vote on what deck I play. And then lastly, my YouTube, I do a new deck every month. I do 4 games of Commander every month. I do a video every month where I talk about sleeper cards. That's youtube.com/magicalhackermtg, all one word. Was that 2 minutes?
Nope, you actually went over, so we're going to take 15 seconds from you tomorrow, or next Monday.
All right, okay.
All right, so for those of you watching this on YouTube or listening on Libsyn, Spotify, or now almost iTunes, I think I got the email saying we were approved for that, so that's kind of cool. I will make sure that all their links that they just said are in the descriptions down below. That way you guys can visit them there. We are on twitch.tv/PraetorMagic, youtube.com/PraetorMagic, twitter.com/PraetorMagic, facebook.com/PraetorMagic, the Discord, which I'll put a link to, and now instagram.com/PraetorMagic. I have no idea what I'm doing, but it's funny, and sometimes people like stuff, so I guess I'm doing it right. The last thing I want to mention, Frexian said that he doesn't have social media. If you guys didn't catch up before, it's because he's a cave troll. The last thing I want to mention is that we are now an affiliate with inkedgaming.com. It's a pretty cool thing. We have a link which you can get to down below, where if you buy anything from the store from that link, we basically get kind of like commission for it. We also have a Praetor 10 coupon code, so you can get, I think it's like 10% off. And we are going to be doing some other giveaways with them just through affiliation from now on. It's pretty exciting. Please use those links if you're going to get like your own playmats, mouse pads, or anything else. I actually got mouse pads for all the Praetors for Christmas. They're super cool. They're side stitched, which I didn't know was a thing when I even ordered them. I don't read descriptions very well, so when they came, I was like, what the heck is this? But then I tried it out, and I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's really actually pretty cool. So that's all we have for this week. We are streaming Wednesday at 9 p.m. It'll be 3DH, and on Friday at 9 p.m. at 3DH is going to be 3DH as well. And then next Monday, 9 p.m., same time, same place, Reflection of the Council. We are going to be recapping a little bit on this, and then talking about the whole set for Ravnica Allegiance and cards we're excited for, and probably a little bit the Legendary Creatures, unless we do that in the Monday after that. I don't know. Breathing is nice. I like to do it when I'm done with this.
We made it. We got it through.
All right. Any last words before we go? Brexian, want to poop on addendum one more time?
I think he wants to.
I think he left. I think he's like, you know what? I've had enough of this crap.
Table flipped.
No, yeah. just remember how great Riot is instead. Riot is great. Let's not think about the bad mechanics. Let's think about the good ones.
Afterlife's going to be a lot cooler. You just don't know it yet. All right, guys. That's all we got for y'all. See you next Wednesday, Friday, and next Monday for this podcast. Peace.